Hi and welcome to CGI. This is a super visual card effect, basically a projection of any objects from a playing card. CGI stands for card generated illusion. It's super visual, super fun to do, really easy. So let's get straight into it and see what we got in the pack. Okay, so this is what you should have received in your packet. It's quite a lot, so we'll just briefly give you an outline of what you've got and what each part does. This is some stickers. The stickers have been printed off to marry up with these objects here. The objects you've got here are actually gimmicks objects. Each of them contains a magnet to allow it to work in conjunction with the CGI card. You will have also received your CGI card with a red bicycle back and a random face. As well as this, you will have also got some elastic thread which can be used to repair or maintain the gimmick when you need to do so. So let's get on to the basic use of the CGI card. Okay, so we know what we've got in our package. Let's have a quick look at the gimmick overview of how it actually functions and works. Before we go on, the 3 gimmicked items you received in your pack each contain a magnet. In the Rubik's Cube, the magnet will be hidden in one of the center squares. On this one it's the blue square. The die will be gimmicked, it will be the number 1, which is actually magnetic. And the Lego brick has a magnet on the reverse there. Each of the magnets in these gimmicks is orientated to link up with the card here, and we will be showing you later how to make additional gimmicked items. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the card. This is your basic CGI card. It comes in a red back bicycle design and it will have a varying face. And it's very, very simple. The way it functions, the first thing is actually when you first get this out, it functions obviously like a flat card. So what you need to do is open very slowly the gimmick and put the flap over a few times to stretch the elastic before you start using the gimmick. This will just make the elastic last a lot longer. Okay, now this is how it works. The flap folds over, and hidden within this flap we actually have 2 magnets. There's one on this side and one on this side. When the flap is closed over, we're actually going to use a metallic object or one of our magnets to hold the flap shut. So you can see we've got a standard flap card here, but the object on the back is actually holding that in a closed position. This allows you to freely hold the card by the fingertips and show the card and hide the object. What happens is, as well as the magnets on the front face of the card, we've also applied a plastic coating. This allows you to either stick on a sticker or to draw an object, which is then going to be turned or transposed into the gimmicked object on the back of the card. So as an example, if we was to draw a dice on the card, we can show the dice, and then just simply by releasing the gimmick on the back we can get the die to pop out of the card. And that is the basic operation of the CGI gimmick. Okay, so before we actually get into the presentation, just want to go over a bit in detail of the actual operation of the gimmick with the different gimmicked items. Because of the magnets that have been applied, different magnets have different strengths or polarities. When you use in conjunction card, for example, the Lego has a very strong magnet, so that will actually stick to the card and you'll be able to shake the card without the magnet coming off. You can even throw the card. To activate this, you'll need to use one of your fingers, ideally your pointer finger, to actually activate and release the gimmick. In contrast to this, the Rubik's Cube has a slightly smaller magnet, and because of the weight of the object, the polarity isn't as strong, so you can actually shake the Rubik's Cube off without any bother. That means that this one can either be operated by releasing with the finger, or it can be operated by holding at the end of the card and simply shaking the Rubik's Cube out of the card. And again with the die has quite a strong polarity, so again this will stick. You can give it a shake and get it to release, or again you can use the finger. So this is just to bear in mind that different gimmicks with different strengths will need a different way of actually being released. Again, we'll cover this when we look at making different gimmicks up and the presentation ideas, but that's just to give you an overview of the different strengths of the magnets. Okay, so we now roughly know how the gimmick actually operates. Before we get started and look at presentation ideas, it's important that you make a few decisions. So the first thing is, from the gimmicks we've been supplied, the first thing you'll need to decide is which one you want to produce. So let's say, for instance, we want to produce the Rubik's Cube. The next question you need to ask yourself is in what manner you actually want to show the Rubik's Cube before you produce it. So you have a couple of options really. You can use one of the stickers that we've supplied, and this can be applied to the card, and then you're actually going to produce that sticker and make it turn into a real Rubik's Cube. The other option you have is to get yourself a dry erase or whiteboard marker similar to an Expo, house it into a Sharpie pen, which we're going to show you how to do in a bit. And now, because there's a plastic coating on the card, you can actually draw any design or any image on the card, and you're going to be able to wipe this off so you can use the card again. So we'll use the sticker to start with. Again, we'll go over performance ideas of how actually to get into this in a bit, but for now, just to show you the operation, we take the Rubik's Cube and we open the card. We're going to apply the sticker to the open flap, like so. We can then take the Rubik's Cube and attach that to the back of the gimmick, which is going to hold the gimmick in the open position. Again, we'll go more into detail when we look at the presentation ideas, but from this you're simply going to take the card, release the Rubik's Cube, which is going to cause the flap to flap over and close. Now, the illusion is caused by, as this card lifts up, the Rubik's Cube stays in view until it gets to this position here. Now that card shooting forward is what gives the illusion of the actual object popping out of the card, and then at the same time the object dropping out the bottom will make it look like it's popped out. So when we combine the two together, we have the gimmick, card flaps, and we've produced the Rubik's Cube. Okay, so again, it's just really a case of, before you start in picking the object you wish to appear, and then deciding whether you want to use a sticker image or use a drawn image to actually present that before it pops out the card. And again, we've supplied you with 3 different objects to get you started. You've got a classic Rubik's Cube, which everyone loves, a Lego brick, and a die. Each one of these has been applied with a magnet, and it will work with the orientation of the card. In a minute we're going to show you how to look at other gimmicks, other things that you can produce from the card other than what we've supplied. Okay, so this is probably my favourite way to perform CGI. I normally perform this to music as just a performance piece. Very, very simple. We're going to produce the Rubik's Cube. To do this, I'm actually going to draw the Rubik's Cube using a whiteboard marker that's been housed in a Sharpie. This is just a standard Expo pen housed in a Sharpie, so it's dry erase. We are going to show you how to make one of these up in a bit. Okay, so very simple. Your setup is like so. You take your CGI card, open the flap to activate it, take the Rubik's Cube, find the magnet and apply to the back of the card into this position here, and you're now set up, ready to go. What you're going to do is actually hide the gimmick in your hand like so, and then take the pen with your dominant hand. So I'm holding this in my left hand as I'm right-handed, so I can still be free to draw with the right hand. And then you go into your performance. So you're literally just going to draw your best attempt at a Rubik's Cube. You don't have to put the extra detail in, but I like to. From here, place the pen down. You're now going to transfer the card into your other hand, basically as a convincer that the card is just a card. So you should be able to see the Rubik's Cube, transfer over. You can now decide whether you want to use this finger to activate the gimmick or you want to shake the gimmick, and simply show here. From this point, I like to turn this card around to show the back, because this face is completely clean, and show the cube. Place it down, card goes away, end of trick. Okay, so the next presentation idea is very similar to the first. In this one I'm going to use one of the stickers. Again, you could choose to draw the object, it's really down to yourself, personal preference. What's going to happen here though is I've actually selected either the Lego or a magnetic coin. The reason I've selected one of these objects for this presentation is because the magnetism is a lot stronger in these two objects, which allows the gimmick to be added and locked in place, and then as well as being able to handle the card like this, you actually have the freedom to throw the card, which is a great little convincer. Obviously you've got an image on there to be able to throw the card and retain the gimmick in place. Just gives you great freedom with the card. So for this presentation, very, very simple. We start again in the exact same position, card in the non-dominant hand with the gimmick already in place and the card activated. You're going to take or ask the spectator to hand you an image of a Lego brick. That goes on there. We throw over to the other hand, and again, because this has got the stronger magnet on, we need to use our finger to actually activate and release the gimmick, like so. Turn the card round, show the blank face. You can throw again if you like, put the gimmick down. And that is the second presentation idea for the CGI card. Okay, so looking at the last of the actual gimmicked objects you got, we have our die. Now the die is quite a unique one. One, it looks beautiful. It's a really well-made gimmick, and you could probably think of other lots of uses for it. But the beautiful thing about the die is it's sort of a halfway between the Lego or coin and the Rubik's Cube. In that the magnetism's quite strong. I don't think it's quite that strong that you can throw it. Well, you can. You can obviously get away with it, but I wouldn't recommend that. It comes off. But the great thing is with the die, it can be shook off as well. It just needs a bit of a harder shake. So just give you an image of what that looks like. Again, open the gimmick up to activate. Play on the sticker, using the die to lock the gimmick in place. And then we can either use a shake, or you can use a finger to activate the gimmick, like so. Now there is a bit of a trade-off between the two. If you use the finger to activate, obviously you're only showing 3 visible fingers here, and you could be using the extra finger to hold on an object. It has to be very good. But when you're using the finger, the actual visual is a lot stronger than if you actually shake the card, because what happens when you shake the card is you blur the actual illusion itself a little bit more than if you just activate the card with your finger, like so. And that is the presentation with the die. Okay, so the last item we've got that we haven't discussed is actually this question mark sticker. Now, the idea for including the question mark sticker, similar to the pen, is that you can basically use any object or produce any object. So with the question mark sticker, we'd apply it to the card, and then you can use the question mark to produce any object. So again, that's why we've included the circle sticker. Now the circle sticker doesn't need to be used to produce a circular object like a poker chip or a coin. It could be used to produce a square object like a Rubik's Cube. We just found that the white was a nice contrast to the red and produced quite a visual pop when the action was added. So that's the question mark circle that you should have received in your pack. Okay, so just a variation or a different way of actually presenting this, or starting position really. You can see here we've got a card. We take one of our stickers, apply it onto the card, and then come to this position here. And what we've done is we've actually used the box to load the gimmick and get into position. From there, we just go into our standard release and presentation. So look at this in a bit more detail. All I've literally done is taken a standard box, cut a hole. Now, if the object that you're trying to hide is thinner than a card box, you only need to cut one hole, but you can see here that the die and the Rubik's Cube are actually thicker than the card box, so you'll need to put 2 holes in. The way this works is you start off with the gimmick loaded onto the card, then this is applied to the top of the box, like so. You can then either draw or place the sticker on. To activate or to get the gimmick out, you're literally just going to peel up the card. This is going to release or bring the gimmick out of the box, and then while you have the card here as a cover, you're just going to wrist kill and turn your hand so as to not show the holes in the box. You then just drop this to the side or below the table out of view, like so, and then you're loaded, ready to go in to the performance. So that's just an additional presentation idea using a box. Obviously this can be used to hide the slightly larger objects like a Rubik's Cube. That can also be dropped into the box, and so forth. So that's the box hole, just a simple presentation idea we thought we'd share with you. Okay, so additional objects. As well as being able to produce one of the beautiful gimmicks that we've supplied with this, you can also produce any object that you can gimmick or shim that will fit behind a playing card. So just to give you an example of some objects that you can do. The lollipop, all I simply did was remove the lollipop, added a disc magnet inside of the lollipop, and then this, if you find the right spot, allows the lolly to stick to the back of the card. Tic Tacs, again, because the card's got the plastic, you can draw any image on the front and wipe off and go again. We can add Tic Tacs on. All I've done with the Tic Tacs is added a disc magnet on the inside of the actual box, glued it to the clear case, and then this allows that to stick. Now there isn't one on the top, so for this you just simply need to hold, but because you've got fingers either side, it stops the box from actually tipping to the sides, and then at any point you can produce Tic Tacs. As well as Tic Tacs, one of my personal favourites is the juicy fruits or chewing gums. Again, very simple with this one. All I've done is added a disc magnet here and at the bottom, which connects with the magnets on the card. So again, you can draw a pack of gum or a rectangle and then appear the gum at any chosen moment. Other objects you can do, things like magnetic coins. Magnetic coins are really good because the strength of the magnetic coin, again, like we mentioned with the Lego brick, actually means it really sticks on there, allowing you some great freedom with the card to be able to rotate it round. But basically, in a nutshell, anything that's shimmed, anything that contains magnets, or anything you can add a shim or a magnet to will work with the CGI card, as long as it can be hidden behind the back of the card. So you can go for some really, really big objects. The Tic Tac box on video looks stunning. Really large object, really looks good when it pops out of a card. So there's just some additional ideas. Be really creative with this, find as many different things as you can. As I say, shim and magnets is the way to go, and you can have lots of fun, lots of different ideas. Okay, so one of the beauties of CGI is the fact that we actually have this rewritable surface on the card, which allows you to take a dry erase marker, draw on the card, perform the effect, and then once you're done, you're able to just wipe off the ink and go again. Beautiful thing. Now obviously if you was to just use a standard dry erase marker, people might be pretty sus to the idea that it isn't permanent ink. So what we're actually going to do is show you how to house your dry ink inside of a Sharpie casing, which is a permanent marker, probably the most prominent and well-known marker in the world. The dry erase marker that we've actually found which is best for this effect is the Expo marker. These are readily available in the States, or you can order them online at Amazon. They're quite cheap in price. So what we basically need to do is take the actual nib and the ink house cartridge out of this pen and add it into the Sharpie pen. And this is how we go about it. To do this, you're going to need a surface to work on, something to actually put the ink onto so we don't stain anything, and a pair of pliers. This is going to stop you actually getting your fingers and hands dirty. Very simply to start with, we're going to take the Expo pen, remove on the Expo pen the actual housing is on the bottom, so we're going to remove that, place that there. Then we're going to take the pliers, gently grabbing the nib, and we're going to pull the nib completely out. This will then allow the inkwell to fall out of the Expo pen, and we're going to be putting these back into the Sharpie pen. So for now you don't actually need this, we're going to set this aside, but we will use this to put the old ink of this pen in. You're then going to take your Sharpie, and to remove and do the same operation in a Sharpie, we're actually going to use the lid. What you want to do is put the lid on until it's nearly closed, not all the way, and then very carefully you're going to take this part and this part, and you're actually going to wiggle this until you hear it click. When it clicks, you'll be able to pull the housing straight out of the Sharpie marker like so. Then using the pliers again, you're just going to gently squeeze, not too hard on the nib, to remove that out of the pen. So now we have an empty Sharpie housing. All we're going to do now is to take the nib from the Expo pen. We're going to apply that into the Sharpie top and take the inkwell and push that back in, making sure that we feel the two connect. You might just want to push down on the table, and now you have that part with the Expo pen added. Simply then all you do is replace the housing, make sure it clicks down, and the lid, and you now have an Expo pen housing the Sharpie marker, which can be used to draw and wipe and go again. If you don't want to waste the permanent marker, if it was a new one, you can very simply just apply that back into the expo housing. Good idea though is not to use this as a prank and actually tell someone it's dry erase, because it is now permanent ink. But that's just an easy way of not wasting the ink, so you can use the permanent marker as well. And that is how you create your dry erase Sharpie marker. Okay, so as CGI is a flat card and it obviously uses elastic thread, at some point the elastic may come loose, so you might want to actually refix that and tighten it up, or it may snap completely, which hopefully won't happen. Now if this happens, what you need to do is basically on the back of the gimmick you've got this face card. You need to basically relieve or free this from the gimmick itself, and it's just a single card. You'll see that it's attached on with a double-sided tape. Removing this also exposes this magnet here, which again is put on with double tape. Now the reason we haven't pulled this off is if you want to keep this in, you can, when you refix this, you can actually pull this tape off and leave the center magnet. But you can also, if you so wish, when this closes, the idea with this magnet at the top is to actually lock the gimmick in place should the actual elastic fail, and just to give it more closed. And obviously this does give you a little sound. So you can choose, if you so wish, to actually remove this disc magnet, because it doesn't hinder the operation of the actual bottom lock. So you could remove that and lose that sound. I prefer to keep this in. I think it doesn't really take much away from the piece. Again, it's just an optional extra for you. Now with this piece off, you'll see that the flap card itself, there'll be 2 holes on the flap and 2 holes in the card. This is great because you don't have to puncture the holes yourself to actually replace the elastic thread. And in your pack you would have got this packet of extra thread, which we're actually now going to use to retie and fix the gimmick. So what you want to do is thread the elastic thread through, and then you're going to pull down so you get a double thread, about so much. You don't need too much. And what we're going to do is threading from the back first. We're going to thread through one of the holes, making sure we come through both to the top of the gimmick. Then going to pull through, making sure that we leave some of the thread on the reverse. Just hold that with your finger and thumb. And then going to go back through the holes on the front, like so, and then pull through. So you'll now have a thread coming through here and through here. All we then do is lay the card down on the table, take the threads, and we're just simply going to tie a couple of knots. Now these don't have to be too tight, but you just want to make sure that you push down and then come through again. With a couple of knots, like so. When you've done that, you can trim off the excess. We now have our repaired gimmick. Now again, as when you first operate one of these gimmicks, when you've actually applied this, you want to slowly wear in the elastic before opening the gimmick fully. Just stretch it out. After a few stretches, you can then open it up fully and the gimmick will function. What you need to do now is, again, as we mentioned earlier, is decide whether you want to leave this locking magnet in place. Once that's in, we just then would simply reattach our card onto the double-sided tape, and there we have our fixed and amended CGI gimmick ready to go again. Okay, so there's just an additional little tip that some people like to do. You'll see on the card, because it's obviously a flap card, the card will fold and then unflap open. Now where the fold is, you will see that you get this white line from the actual use of the card. So a little tip, if this bothers you or you want to hide this a little bit more, you can take either a Reb Sharpie or a Copic pen, are very good, and you're just going to use the pen. You're going to follow along the line and just try and dot tiny little dots where red used to be. So if I go on this card now, we're just going to go along the card, and anywhere where there was red, that's now been turned white. And it's mainly in this middle bit here that you'll get it with a bicycle, like so. And that little bit of red just helps to hide that white crease. Again, it's completely optional. It's not something you need to do, but if you want to do it, you can. A red Sharpie works brilliantly. Copic pens, which is another type of art pen you can get online as well, also work very well for this. And that's just an additional tip for hiding the centre crease. Okay, so this is CGI. We've supplied you with stickers, we've supplied you with gimmick cube, die and Lego, as well as this we've shown you how to make the pen up. Now, because obviously the gimmick has the plastic coating, you can draw and produce whatever you want from the CGI gimmick. You're really only limited by your creativity or imagination. So get creative, find different objects and start popping them out of the card. Okay, so that's CGI. I really hope you enjoy this product. I'd like to say thank you first of all for purchasing the product. I'd also like to say thanks and a big shout out to Costas and the Magic Dale team for actually producing this effect. I think this is probably one of the most visual effects that I've ever seen. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this. Really try and be creative, think of different objects that you can produce, and I hope to see them soon on YouTube.